Tomorrow's Joe. Easy or normal mode. You can pick difficulties in this game. So, I want to talk about today Ashita No Joe Super Nintendo. So, I remember one day, so why'd I bother getting into this game or even playing it or whatever, right? Why did I bother playing it? So, to explain this real quick, I got into a series called Ashita No Joe. Ashita No Joe, okay. Yeah, Ashita No Joe. Or, for English speakers, it would be Tomorrow's Joe, right? Because that's what Ashita means, Tomorrow's Joe. A Tomorrow's Joe or something, just in general. But you get it, right? So I got into that anime series. It is another boxing series, for anyone wondering. And, yeah, I got into it with Chris, because me and Chris are watching it side by side. I'm not done with the original show yet, but I wanted to kind of, as, like, Ronnie was playing Hajime no Ippo, Ippo the Fighting Portable, I was like, you know what? I want to put something, I want to do a boxing game, because you guys know me, I love the Punch-Out series, I love Ippo too, because y'all remember when I did the Wii game of Ippo on the channel, did a full playthrough of the Wii Ippo game and stuff, which was really dang fun, actually. It was actually a pretty fun game until I just was tired of it. But anyways, you get my point, right? He was playing Ippo, and I was like, dude, I want to do that too, but I want to do something a little different. I want to, like, play the opposite. I want to play Ashita No Joe. I want to see if he has any video games. So then I started doing some research, right, on Ashita No Joe and what type of games does he have, right? And I did my research, like, through Google searching, Wikipedia searching, all that other sort of stuff, and I found out he has a Super Nintendo game, and he has a Game Boy Advance game, he has a couple PS2 games, or PS2, I think he has maybe one PS1 game, but mostly, other than Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, he has a lot for the PlayStation 2 that he was a part of that were all Japanese exclusive. So meaning, no English speakers got a single Tomorrow Joe video game that was translated over here to English. So the Super Nintendo game that I'm talking about right now, right, is a Japanese exclusive, right? And I was surprised because I was like, dang, I kind of wish Ashita No Joe had a lot more, games over here in America. That would have been cool. I would have loved to at least play one or two, but it's cool. We got like a fan translation of the Super Nintendo game. So we're going to go over that game before I talk about the Game Boy Advance game, and then I'm calling it for this video. But anyways, so when he started up Ashita No Joe, the opening that I showed you guys in the beginning of the video, that is like the opening to the game a little bit. You also can choose between player 1, player 2 games. So like P1 game, you go through, I think, 4, 5, 6 different opponents before you hit the final boss real quick. And then after that, you're just done with the game. Or 2 players where you and a family member can pull up a controller and play the game. Or you got options, right, where you can change the difficulty to easy to normal, maybe hard difficulty. And that's really all she wrote, right, in terms of, like, gameplay. Anyways, or not gameplay, the settings and shit. So when you enter the gameplay, you can use your control stick to either do a straight jab. You can do, like, maybe move the D-pad stick forward to move a little bit forward and do, like, maybe like an uppercut punch with one of the other buttons. Since this is Super Nintendo, we have more than one button we can have access to. So we have access to more than one button. The circle button, since I play this on a controller, I had the square button be my punch and X to be like I can't remember the other button, but square was my punch button, and you can like mix that up doing uppercuts, like, little uppercuts. You can also press back stick right here to kind of like make your body do this weird sort of dodge, because this game is kind of weird with its dodging, because you can like spam straights, right, like straight punches over and over again. Like straights, as you can see, like a straight jab like this. But you also like can lean back like this. I'm gonna try to make sure y'all can see it on the camera, which is a weird way to dodge. I never really figured out how you block. I think it was also, X or one of the other buttons on the Super Nintendo for you to block real quick. And I'm not gonna lie, these opponents, depending on what difficulty you put this in, Gail, Bruno, welcome to stream, by the way. These opponents can either be really easy or really hard, and I would argue even in the easy difficulty, a lot of Joe's opponents that he faces in the game, I think you are going to see like later in the anime. So I highly recommend that when you go into this game and play the Super Nintendo game, regardless of difficulty, go in here with caution. Maybe finish the Ashita No Joe series before you play this one, or get a good chunk into it before you play it. More than what I was, because I ain't going to lie. I'm episode like... Me and Chris are like episode 21, I think, into Ashita No Joe. So not even where he's out of the boxing ring, or where he's in a boxing ring, like official boxing ring, like an official boxing match, like he's just in prison right now. But you get it, right? But anyways, as I was saying, you can do all these moves to your opponent, and it's pretty sick, right? Or you can even do like a cross punch, you know, and then your opponent goes down, and then it kind of, the gameplay kind of rinses and repeats, and you fight a bunch of different opponents. You fight that dude. You fight, Kana Gushi, which I do not know who he is, so I didn't care that much. I remember I did care when we fought Rashiki, though. Rashiki is a popular character in Ashita No Joe. He's actually a character you see in the early days, so it's cool that I saw them meet up again in the original game. But I ain't gonna lie, though. I think it was Rashiki onwards, right, where I started to have tons of problems, because compared to you, right, Joe does not that much damage. Meanwhile, Rashiki does a lot of damage to you. And I mean that, right? So when I got to Rashiki and saw that he was pummeling me / doing way more damage than I could dish out on him, I was struggling here for a little bit. And then my next opponent right after Rashiki, by the way, there's a cool little cutscene right here. Joe basically tells him, like, good fight, my guy, that was awesome. Thank you for fighting me again, I lost, and all that other sort of stuff, right? Yeah, see, he just says that. But then we see Rashiki pass out because he fought hard. And then T. Okurai, he wasn't that bad. Honestly speaking, he was okay. I didn't really care much for him, but the real opponent I really did care for, by the way, this guy was kind of annoying because he would just straight jab at me all the time. But the main problem, other than the other dude, that dude was fine. This dude would just straight jab and spam his ultimate move at me. But the real dude that I had a problem with, other than Crazy Guy right here, right, was my man's... I think it was Mendoza, I think. I think he's the final boss of the game. Right? And this dude is weird. Because not only he has an ability where he can flash across the goddamn screen halfway, which I remember when I was playing this, bro was punching me so hard and fast, I was sitting there wondering what the fuck was going on, bro. With him making straight jabs at me and shit over and over again. And I never understood it, bro. And as well, right, I'm also going to show off, whenever you play this game on easy after you beat him and shit, you don't get the actual ending. The game itself tells you, congratulations, get the real ending, which, by the way, I'm going to show off the real ending in this video, because why not? And by the way, even on easy mode, this game is hard as shit. It gets, like, progressively harder and harder. I would argue Rashiki, or maybe even earlier than Rashiki, would be my endpoint. But anyways, so the real ending of the game, after you beat Mendoza, which I did this shit in easy mode, is after you fight him, I don't know what happens. I think you get him low enough, and then, like, you lose the match or some shit, right? And it cuts to black, and then there's all this Japanese text that you can't read. Right, and then you see the ending where he's putting up the gloves, like a memorial or something, or whatever. Then you see old dude, like the winner, Dape-san trying to, like, keep Joe straight. That's after that, Joe. And then, Dape-san's trying to comfort Joe in the loss, because I think Joe was knocked out right there. I could be hella wrong, but, and Mendoza won the fight. And then after that, then you get this screen, as you can see. And basically, it kind of shows that, like, yeah, it is kind of sad that Joe lost the fight. And, which is kind of a different ending, and it kind of is making me sad, as we speak right now, because, like, I'm wondering, like, damn, bro, so, like, that's what happens to Joe? Because I think I did see this ending at least once on a thumbnail, and I didn't want to think it's true, but this is literally what happens at the end of the game, and, yeah, right? But, as I said, I would say Ashita No Joe Super Nintendo is a pretty hard game, and I honestly would not recommend it unless you're really into really hard fighting games, like really hard like boxing games and shit. Let me do Ashita No Joe Rising Sun GBA full gameplay or whatever. Let me see, because there's also this game, which I did a video on it myself, but not a lot of people that kind of show that off, so. But yeah, I don't think the game is that bad for the Super Nintendo. I think maybe you should give it a go, but other than that, here's the Game Boy Advance game. So, since all the menus are in Japanese, and since this is a Japanese exclusive video game, I remember when I first played this, I didn't understand anything other than I clicked the first story mode that looked similar, and I guess it meant story mode or free play or whatever. And one of the things that I loved and disliked about this game is that there was a lot of text. It kind of made the Super Nintendo, like, Tomorrow's Joe video game, in a weird way, like, kind of a lot better to play in some instances, in my opinion, because of the fact that, like, there's way less text, there's way less dialogue, you get straight into the box, you get straight into the box, you get straight into fighting and doing the matches and all that other sort of shit, and then you go into, once you finish it, then you go into the next one, so it kind of has, like, a rinse and repeat, simple, basic gameplay, but this one has, like the GBA one, surprisingly, believe it or not, has a lot more to it than the Super Nintendo one, because it kind of, in a lot of ways, it kind of feels like a sequel to the Super Nintendo game of Tomorrow's Joe, but in a lot of ways, it feels like it's trying to do its own thing, too, on top of that. Because not only there's a lot of text, but then there's these weird, I would argue, like, training little montages you get to actually dictate Joe's actions. Like, for example, let me show you, like, one of them. Or at least the screen, right? Oh, whoops, I didn't mean to fucking do that. Yeah, let me show, yeah, see? Here is what I'm talking about, the little menu thing for, like, Joe, right? You get to choose Joe's, decisions. Like, you get to choose, like, hey, should I just go punch a wall? Should I go jogging? Should I go, do some sit-ups? Should I go do this? Should I go do that? All that stuff, right? And also on top of that, not only it does like the little bit of the beginning portion of Ashita No Joe, but it also skips into much later into Joe's like life during Ashita No Joe, aka the anime. And other than the choosing gameplay, we do get some fights. Like the first battle is Dape and Joe fighting each other because if you remember, Joe was beat up a lot of cops. He was basically being not a good person, and Dape-san kind of had to put him down. If you remember that fight, that's basically it. And then you can kind of see where I mean by how it's kind of like a continuation of the Super Nintendo gameplay, because it has the same type of feel to it. They don't use the same sprites and shit from the Super Nintendo, obviously, and I also like the icons they changed, like how you get to show them getting hit. When they get hit, the icon moves and stuff. Not a lot of games do that these days, but you get it. Also, you're supposed to win this fight, but yeah, that's like the two mixing gameplays of Rising Sun's gameplay is you have this gameplay, the boxing gameplay, the 2D fighting gameplay, but then you also have, like I said, the decisions, the choices to kind of keep you underweight or to keep Joe active or not to have Joe active. It's a whole thing. And since it is in Japanese, I remember I played it for like nearly an hour or about an hour, and I think I kind of just said to, yeah, like nearly an hour, 52 minutes. I gave it that time because I was like, you know what? I like Ashita no Joe, obviously, duh. So let me give this Game Boy Advance game a try. But since it's Japanese and I can't really understand like any other language other than English, I decided to kind of go against um giving Ashita, like I kind of went against giving this like a full playthrough and just played until I felt done with it. At least um so that I could just be done and say, you know what, I gave this game a go. I'm just gonna turn this off now and just go chill or something or whatever. And I wish I could have played more of it, but I wish I could understand Japanese. If I could understand Japanese, that this whole barrier thing of what the characters are saying, what are they doing, my interest in this game would have shot up, and then I could have also explained it to you guys a lot better. But honestly, that's the best way I could explain it in that game. But nonetheless, I think Ashita no Joe for the Game Boy Advance is a solid game. If you can understand Japanese, or if there's like maybe an English translated version one day for the Ashita no Joe GBA game gets translated, maybe I can maybe give it a replay and we can do that translated version. Or maybe if I learn Japanese one day, which I probably won't, but you never know, and possibilities are endless, and maybe I can replay the game, make a re-experience, reinvest, see if that game is worthwhile longer than what I spent on it. But anyways, that's going to be it for today for me, guys. I originally was going to do like Rayman 2, but I felt like I need to get this Ashita no Joe my experience out there for the world to show you guys that these Ashita no Joe games, if you ever watch the anime and want to give some games a try, I recommend you give the Super Nintendo and the GBA game a chance. If you want to like, if you don't really care about the language barrier like I did, sort of, kind of, maybe you can get through those games a little better than I did. But other than that problem, and both games being like pretty hard to play, like just control wise, as the difficulty ramps up, the more you get into it, especially with the Super Nintendo game. Uh, Other than those little things, not much is a problem. But anyways, guys, like, comment, subscribe, favorite, share the video with your friends. I'm gonna give my brother the PlayStation now so we can just do whatever, since I've been streaming for a while. Oh, I need to end it like Joe would. I don't know how to end the video. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I really don't know how to end it. I mean, I already Superman punched the camera, so that's not gonna work again. Maybe. Oh, I think I have an idea for the outro. Hold on. Ashita no Joe's whistle. I don't know. Like, fuck.